Hey, hey, what's up, everybody? Just getting ready for some more drawing. I've been really integrating, like, drawing into my routine. It's so, like, now that I've gone through, like, so many different iterations of, okay, if you keep taking actions, you will move forward. It's so much simpler. Like, I don't have to think about what the results are going to be. I don't have to think about, like, where is my life going to be? It's like, no, like, my life is going to keep being my life. Trusting in the fact that my life isn't going to suddenly stop just because I pursue one thing or the other, whether it's a hobby, whether it's a career trajectory. That also means that things aren't going to just work out just because I do them. But it also has like a sturdiness to it. Like, because of the nature of reality, taking actions is just that. It's just taking action. So I think like I'm really excited to see like where things can go. Okay. Yeah, we're listening to some Final Fantasy IX, hanging out. We're just drawing together. Okay. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So I've been working on some things. Oop, wrong thing. Uh, yeah. So I think I'm starting to get to a point where my sketches are starting to have more form to them. And so like I kind of just did I'm doing this sketch exercise where basically I just make some random scribbles and then and then I kind of just let the scribbles take shape. So like I started out with this one, and then before I knew it, there was more detail, and then I added the eye. Now I know a lot of people find this controversial, but I do feel like within reason and with high restraints, very deliberate effort to minimizing its impact on my understanding of my work, using ChatGPT as like somewhat of an observer to look at my art and just like say what's working, what doesn't work. And obviously I take it with a grain of salt. I treat it just like any like a human. It's basically like an observer that has like, it's trained. It's not. I don't think ChatGPT or any kind of AI is this magical thing that people think it is. I think it has problems. Not even talking about like ethical or moral problems. I'm talking about like it literally has thinking problems. That if you work with it for an extended amount of time, you'll start to notice these things. It's so much better to work with humans. It's just that's the overwhelming support that I get from using ChatGPT. But the problem is getting humans to work with you is the hard part. Not because like I'm like this terrible person to work with or anything, but because working with humans requires you know, multiple resources kind of coming together at the same time. You have another person with their own agenda, with their own life, with their, not like agenda and like a negative thing, but, you know, I drew this on its side, this face with like a helmet, and the visor. Fake snore. No dog. Are you friends of Christian? Jeez. I drew this actually on the side, and then when I looked at it right side up, I noticed there's like a weird slant to it. It looked right in proportions when I was drawing it from its side. And then I ended up drawing this, like, you know, wasp-looking creature with wings. And I just noticed that, like, things are starting to take shape in my drawings now. At least in some of my more rough sketches. And it's not just random lines now. I'm actually starting to take form. This one is some kind of, like, mass of things, like maybe a heart. But it's like almost floral, and it's got like these kind of tendrils coming out. So I think just learning to trust my progress, and like I said, using ChatGPT more as a observer in lieu of a human observer, because working with a human observer would be much preferred. But I don't have access to a 24/7 drawing coach. Should we work with you're his lover? Nice. Should we work with green, blue, pink, or yellow? I want to see. Oh, let's use this orange. It's kind of hard to tell the contrast with the lighting. Like maybe you can see it more here. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, either way, it does change things. Yeah, even though it's kind of washed out in the lighting. Or the pink here. Top right looks like a BA helmet, a bike helmet. Oh wait, what's a BA? Like a... Which color should we use for our sketches today? Green, blue... No, let's use blue. For today. This is like gray. I was actually drawing on some black. If I can show you like a little bit. Working with pencil on black is really interesting. Let's get some pencils here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, doing like kind of a pencil on black. Like you can kind of see the reflection. Okay, let's like just set out some lines and we're gonna sketch across these, try to find the forms. Just make some, like, you know, masses. And then we're gonna fill out the form like a little bit over time. Okay, yeah. So if we go with this, we start noticing that there are certain shapes and planes in 3D space. And just kind of see where these naturally kind of distribute. And then maybe just try to find, you know, like finer details to connect them. Yeah, like using the reflection of the graphite, like in the graphite on black paper, like really using the reflection as like part of the experiment. Gotta be here. Keep it centered on the camera frame. Yeah, we can kind of see like maybe this is kind of works like maybe these are eyes. So let's like, you know, create some more kind of definition here. Maybe some eyelids. Maybe it's a snail, like in SpongeBob. Or maybe it's Crow from Mystery Science Theater 3000. Who knows? We'll see what it is. Kind of just seeing it take shape. And like what this present moment in that specific action is doing. Common sense. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to add too much detail to this thing. So let's move on to the next sketch. Just trying to find where the shapes are. Where the planes are. Just kind of fill it out. Fill it out and feel it out. Is that a dragon? I have no idea. Yeah, maybe it could be... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe something like that, right? Almost looks like the graphite on the black. It's almost got like a golden feel to it. Like it's gold on black when it's actually gray graphite. Because of the reflective nature of it and the contrast. It almost feels like gold. Yeah, so we got like kind of like the movement, some of the weight distribution of the mass. I kind of connected it with the one below it, just because it felt natural in that moment. So it's like sometimes just trusting what your eyes tell you, you know, about where the drawing is going, where the form should take shape. Not trying to use too heavy of a hand to like push my own agenda, just kind of seeing where it goes, like play it as it lies, right? It's kind of like this is an exercise in, it's almost like drawing, like sculpting. Like you're looking at the clay and you're kind of you're making it, you're allowing it to take form rather than trying to impose form. Although the act of creation involves pushing your own agenda while also allowing the natural cadence of things to allow it to take shape. Here we go with start with this one now. We've got a blank canvas here, basically. Looking at the different distribution, looking at the different planes that exist. Yeah, some kind of top portion of it. Maybe make a cone here. Yeah, we see kind of like, almost like it might be somewhat like maybe potentially a landscape of some sort. Like this is like some mountainous region. So like we put this in, almost like it's in 3D space. So we gotta find where the different planes are. Yeah, I mean, it's a good exercise. Let's switch over to the blue color. Yeah, not really trying to lock ourselves into any one single thing, just kind of trying to work on the different exercises. Yeah, the graphite on black, it makes things a little bit difficult to see sometimes, but it also helps you see some things. Okay, now we have the blue. We're going to do something a little different here. Now that we've kind of laid out a foundation, let's do our other exercise where we write a word or phrase. Here, let's use what Wally draw, wolf. Wally draw, add wolf. Let's write common sense, bruh. Yeah, common sense, bruh. Okay, and let's just make that a font of some sort. Okay, and then let's make some kind of frames of like some kind of containers. Kind of connect those. Let's do our scribble exercises over here to give some kind of shape over here. Let's do a shape over here. And then inside that circle that leaks out. And then let's do one over here. Okay. Hi, what's up, Serby? Welcome back. How you doing? Yeah, we're doing what? Wally Draw Wolf. Wally Draw Add Wolf. Said common sense, bruh, in the chat. And so we're going to make a drawing from this. Maybe if I... Basically, I want to find the different planes that flow along three-dimensional space here. In different containers. What is Wally? That's one of the users in the chat. Wally? Wally! We have a user named Wally in the chat that said in chat, common sense, bruh. I don't know what Wally was talking about, but I don't know what that was in response to. But we're gonna use what Wally said in the chat, and we're gonna kind of evolve some kind of image from that phrase. We just write it out in some kind of font. And then our goal is to draw using the energy from it rather than the form, rather than the idea. It's the energy that word or that phrase, the angles, where the energy goes. And we're going to draw stemming from that. And by the end of the exercise, we're not going to be able to see the original words. It's going to basically, everything from the drawing comes from that energy rather than the word itself. What energy do those letters have in that combination at that placement on the two-dimensional space to create some kind of three-dimensional alignment within 2D space. Basically, it gives us a little bit of a constraint, but not so much that it's a restraint. It's not, locking myself into some kind of idea. It's more like giving, some kind of gravity. Like where my marks are going to be. It directs the energy. You new here? That's kind of what we're doing, Therian. We don't have a specific idea in mind. Instead, we're letting the energy of the page stemming from the original marks as a sort of gravity center. And then we're kind of like working within that framework in a form of improvisation by allowing the form to take shape what it wants to be rather than what I want it to be. Where is my glove thing? Oh, there it is. Yeah, because I'm starting to get like some sweat on my wrist, and Yeah, we don't want to affect the page. But welcome. We're basically just allowing the page to tell me what to do. And obviously, yeah, there's a lot of liberties I'm taking. A lot of those are subconscious. And so I'm trying to learn how to trust what my eyes lead me to, rather than trying to impose some preconceived value. Because if I'm trying to learn how to become better than I am, which means that I have to allow things to happen without imposing something, because I don't have the skill required to impose something. So instead, I need to kind of see what happens and work with that and observe. And that's what stage I am with my drawing. I'm not at a stage where I can impose value, where I can impose rules. If I was, I'd be able to have more control over what I actually want to put on the page. But I'm training a different skill, which is I'm training the ability to sculpt what the page tells me based on what gravity exists. Like what gravity exists on the page, and then adjusting based on what that gravity leads me to. Obviously, it's not gravity in the physical sense. There is no gravitational pull, literally pulling my pencil towards different things. But it's more like, what is my subconscious lean to when I see that letter, or when I see the connection of the letter to another form on the page? Because there's other gravitational centers. Like if I draw the circle right here, you see that you could treat it almost like it's a dark hole pulling all the marks towards it. And like I want to see like what that does to the overall weight, pun not intended, of the image. Like, what does this mark add to the overall gravity? What does it add to the raw form, the clay that I am not, or the marble that I'm etching out, rather than trying to impose some, idea like, oh, I want to draw a mountain. I want to draw a guy with a hat. The hell kind of explanation is this? You got me. I'm just trying to say what my process is at this exact moment. That's what I'm allowing myself to do. I'm not imposing any kind of rigid requirements. I'm just kind of letting my subconscious at this exact moment, for this exact exercise, suspending my need for control. And I'm instead allowing my mind to kind of play around in a state of discovery, in a state of play, rather than treating it like I am a creator trying to impose my will, which is a different exercise, but it's not an exercise we're doing at this exact moment. We're isolating this specific idea of allowing the page to tell me what it wants. And it's an exercise that hopefully trains my eye to find patterns, rather than trying to impose patterns based on a reference. It doesn't mean that you'll never do that. It means that in this specific exercise, we are suspending that need for control, and we are allowing gravity to work. We're allowing the marks on the page to tell us what they want. Now, if this is all I did, I don't know if that would be a good or a bad thing. But we're withholding judgment. We're not thinking in dogma here. We're thinking in, let's just see what happens. I guess that's like a TLDR of what we're doing. It's just we're just seeing what the fuck happens. That's what we're doing. If that's the TLDR. But there is like a sort of structure to the lack of structure. If that makes any sense. There's order to the chaos. I'm trying to see, based on where I am at this exact moment with my understanding of three-dimensional geometry and understanding like what my specific style is, as far as like how I make pencil marks on the page. It's less about trying to create a finished product. It's more about trying to see what my process is, so that when I do go into trying to create a specific idea, I already know what my natural tendencies are. So I'll be able to kind of control it a bit more, instead of just kind of relying on imposed ideas that are not fully developed. I'm allowing myself to develop that skill in isolation. You're just an instinctive art, not as... Yeah, an instinctive art, not a fundamental form. Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to see what my tendencies as a creator are, rather than trying to develop... At this exact moment, I'm not trying to develop any, you know, academic sense of drawing, or academic sense of, you know, because academia is not arbitrary. It's based on observed laws of, you know, this is how this works when you're creating something on a two-dimensional plane. It's observed over hundreds of years of, you know, there is, it's not just dogma, you know, like that there is, like, instruction in traditional instruction is very important, because it's not arbitrary. It's based on observed progress across hundreds of years, across many different artists. However, I think there's also something to be learned in kind of abandoning those. It is so beautiful, Anukat. Why did the chicken cross the road? To subscribe to my YouTube channel. Why else? To get to the other side. Thank you, Alexandru, 51, 55, 55. Yeah, we're basically just hanging out, but with a page in front of us. And I think learning that, kind of getting all that anxiety out of us. I think, like, whenever you do something that is like creative or involves training a skill, we get it in our heads that it's somehow different than anything else we do. It's the exact same thing as if I was sitting here eating a box of, you know, candy bars. You know, or if I was sitting here, you know, playing a video game. Treat the page the same way I treat everything else, only with that specific discipline in mind. There's nothing to lose from isolating skills and exercising them, and there's everything to gain. And I think a lot of the times people get this idea in their head that what they do is important, and not in like the way that it's like, you know, not important what you do. What I mean is, like, we take ourselves too seriously. Oh, you're an artist and you think this is beautiful? 67 beans, 6-7. We did 6-7 yesterday. You guys want to see how that turned out? This is like a finished version of the kind of exercise we did. Here, those are some other exercises. Where's the one where we did 6-7? We did 6-7 like yesterday or the other day. I don't remember. We did 6-7. It was on a white page. Was this it? No. No, it wasn't that one. This was stuff I did off stream. Do you think this was it? I don't think this was it. We wrote 6-7. This was it. Yeah, we wrote 6-7 and we kind of just let it happen. had very like angular ideas. Yeah, and then you see the toilet paper roll that I tried to draw. Yeah, that happened on stream the other day. And I just like, I wrote out the word 6-7 and I kind of just said, okay, what is this font? Like, how do we like work in fractals, I guess, in my mind? Like fractalize the original source and turning it into it's almost like an AI generated image, but with a human generated source, right? So it's like I'm treating my brain as if like I'm generating something from a fractaled idea rather than trying to force my own will, if you want to think about it that way. But I'm not an AI, and so I'm not going to have a lot of the technical skill. But I feel like, you know, there's something I can learn from just following ideas rather than imposing my own. And I've been doing this lately, and I don't think there's any rush. I think like a lot of people rush for early progress. And I'm like, I would rather take my time, first of all, just for enjoyment. Why should I treat this any different than playing a video game? I think like we get inside of our own heads too much. We start drawing and we treat it as a discipline, like music, or like, I think we get it in our heads that it's somehow we have to treat it differently than we treat everything else because, oh, it matters, it's important, it's art. It's like, no, it's not that important. It is, but it's like, you don't need to treat it internally any differently than you treat anything else. It should be natural. It should be something that comes out of your natural tendencies. It should be normal. It should be boring. Because that's when you can develop skill, when it's not passive, but when it's not forced, when it's not something artificial, when it's something that comes out of your, you know, what you already possess, and you're evolving it rather than, oh, I need to take this seriously because it's art. Art has meaning, and because it has meaning, I need to be all tense, and I need to restrict myself because every mark on the page matters. Like, no, you can throw this away. You can take this and do it. You could toss it into the, you know, toss the ring into the fire, you know. You can take anything that you put on the page, and, you know, they say, kill your darlings. You know, that I forgot who exactly said that, but it was about, you know, writing novels or just writing in general. It's just a bunch of marks on a page. You can use it however you like. You can throw it away. You can evolve it. You can do something with it. That is not really like, I feel like we put these arbitrary limits on ourselves, and it does just that. It limits us. When we just allow things to exist and just stop caring whether or not they're good or not. Stop caring whether or not it belongs, because it already does. It belongs because you put it there. It doesn't need any justification. It doesn't need any it doesn't need any kind of, you know, pedigree or qualifications. It doesn't need to be a PhD. You know, you don't need to become something more than you already are. You will become something more through the effort of, you know, refining your technique and learning what your technique is, and learning tradition. And it doesn't mean abandoning traditional academia. What it means is that you're not treating it as the one and only gatekeeping source of your ability. It's not gatekeeping you at all. It's opening up the gate. It's something that's adding to your repertoire, not replacing it. And so you can take anything and do with it what you will. You can take an idea and you can change it around like clay, and you can throw it away and then do another one, and then you could throw that away and do another one. Nothing is stopping you from adding more things. But I think like inside of our own heads, we get this idea that every single mark needs to matter, and that, you know, I can't waste my time. And it's like, no, by by holding still, freezing under pressure, you've already decided that you're not going to take action. And so it's like, if you take action, even if it's not the absolute perfect, most optimal action you can take, you're doing something and it's moving your skill forward rather than stagnating. And I think that like, it's so easy for someone like me to always want to be optimizing and doing the best possible action required. But it's like, if I waited until things were perfect, I wouldn't be drawing on stream right now. Right? Like this wouldn't exist if I waited for the perfect moment, if I waited for some teacher, if I waited for someone to give me permission to draw. I don't need permission. Well, I do, but I need permission from myself. And the permission started with, I'm going to grab a pencil and I'm going to draw on the page today. And then that happened, and now we're here. This happened. It didn't happen until I did it. And so understanding that concept opens us up to a whole new world of creation where we're not bound by some arbitrary limit like, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I need to train for 10 years before I can even go on live on YouTube. I need to go to college and get a PhD before I can even talk about art. Like, no, you just need to draw. You're qualified already, even if you're drawing stick figures. You're qualified because you exist. Now, it does mean that you are in a very specific level of quality, but that's not really what matters. What matters is that you have the audacity to show up and not care so much what people think about you. Because I think that holds us back. And it has the opposite effect of what we want it to. Inazuma 11? Or is it like Ocean's 11, but anime version? I think it has like the opposite effect of what we think it does. We do it because we think that we're not ready. But by doing that, we'll ironically never be ready. Because nobody's ready. Were you ready when you rode your first bike as a kid? No. But you got up on the bike. Hopefully you had somebody holding the bike for you. Making sure you didn't get hurt. Or maybe you didn't, unfortunately. Not everybody has that experience, but you don't wait like 10 years. You don't wait like 20 years. You don't wait like 50 years before you're good enough to ride a bike, because you don't get good by learning about it. You learn by doing. And then, you could as time goes on, if you really want to take bike riding seriously, well, you do it enough times, you develop a natural skill, you will hit a plateau. Because there's only so much that raw learning can do. And you can start to exponentially grow when you now have the foundation to utilize somebody else's knowledge. You could read a scientific research paper about the optimum way to ride a bike, the optimum, weight distribution to build the perfect bicycle, how the bike chain mechanism should work, what kind of wheels you need, what kind of tires. Do you need to get one of those tires that do you need to have it deflated in the front? Or do you need to have one of those tires that's partially they have those tires that aren't actually circles. They have open wedges in them. I don't know if you've heard about those. They're like racing bikes that are ideal for certain conditions. And people do stuff like that. What kind of exercise can you do besides literally just pedaling a bike? Is there isolated exercise you can do that will increase your muscles, that in a much more efficient way than just riding the bike, that will then exponentially increase, or maybe linearly, increase your ability to ride that bike. But you wouldn't be able to even utilize that information if you didn't just get on the bike and start riding. You don't like to watch alone? Is you trans? Yes. Is I trans? Yes. I am a trans woman. I've gone through my surgeries already as of 2 years ago. I had my facial surgery 3 years ago. I had vaginoplasty 2 years ago, and it's been life-changing in the best way. And now I can move on to things like, focusing on, we're working on getting housing with my agency that I'm with. They're trying to find a new living situation for me that will, lead me towards growth and getting into more independence and learning skills in a healthier environment. And I'm also developing things like my hobbies. Like, I'm trying to learn how to draw. I'm not super talented at drawing, but I'm learning. And I think doing something that I'm not so good at trains me to not care so much about what the end result is. Not pressuring myself into, because there's a sense of identity, right? Like something like music, I'm having a hard time. I've been taking several, like 6 or 7 years away from, classical music and jazz music training. And I burnt out pretty hard. And I think a lot of it is because I felt pressured that I had to be a certain way in order to study music. And I think it's a sense of identity where, because you've studied music for so long, you feel like you're inadequate. Because you're like, I've been studying music for I would say 30 years. And you don't stop studying just because you stop playing an instrument. Like you're studying all the time. Anytime you listen to music, anytime you live life, you feel the rhythm of the world around you. You understand how, sound moves through space, and to your ears. Like, you're always studying, even if you're not actively practicing something. Like, you're always learning. And I think there's a lot of subconscious things that happen. I burnt out pretty hard from formal music training. And I think that a lot of it was because I felt like, I should be further along. I've been in music for 30 years. I'd only been in formal training, real formal training, in college, not kind of self-study. Even though I was in band all through school growing up, in choir, it was formal instruction, but it was group instruction. I had never gotten individualized instruction on any instrument until I went to college at 26. I think I was 26 or 27, 6 or 7. I started music when I was 6 or 7. This is what 6 or 7 means, right? 6, 7. So I was I started learning music when I was 6 or 7. I started practicing music more deliberately, probably in around 10 or 11. I kind of formulated an identity by the time I was in high school that I am a musician. And because I wasn't making any significant progress towards any kind of what my goals were, which were to become a professional level musician, to be able to actually do something with it, not just play it for a hobby. I felt inadequate because I was I should be better. It fractured my identity, because it's hard to keep on to an identity when your requirement is that you're at an arbitrary level. And I think it ruined a lot of stuff for me, and it prevented my progress. Ironically, because it's trying to, the reason that it happens is because we want to get better. But then ironically, what happens is it stagnates us, because now we're stuck with indecision. And we end up holding ourselves way too up on a pedestal, thinking that, we should be better. I've been doing this for years. I should be better. With drawing, I have only attempted, my entire life, I have attempted multiple times to try to learn how to draw. But I think it's less ingrained as my identity, because I don't have any preconceived notions over where I quote unquote should be, because I'm not formally trained, because I haven't consistently trained. So it's not ingrained in my identity. And so I have a unique opportunity to avoid that trap from the beginning, to treat it as an activity rather than an identity. And I still have an identity, and ironically, my identity as an artist will more organically surface and become more authentic and like more real, because I'm not deluding myself into thinking this is like some, identity. And then it, interestingly enough, I think paradoxically, becomes a stronger identity in like a positive way, in a healthy way, because now you're not defining your success on whether or not you reach some arbitrary level, like, oh, because I'm an artist because people recognize my work. I'm an artist because I have a painting in a museum. I'm an artist because I went to art school. I'm an artist because I got a job as an artist. Like, those things are too... They're too reliant on external factors that you can't always control. And they aren't really rooted in reality, because if you literally think about it, drawing has nothing to do with what you think. It literally is just an activity that you do. It has no emotions attached. But ironically, I think paradoxically, by not attaching emotions to it, you allow your emotions to channel through it. And then I think that you start creating your most authentic work. Not because you're abandoning traditional values, but because you're not hinging your identity on something that isn't real. You're hinging your identity on, I am somebody who shows up to do things. I am somebody who shows up to the page. Some of those things are drawing related, art related. And now your identity is not hinging on whether or not you become a quote unquote good artist. Whatever that even means. It means something different to everybody. And if you're relying your self-worth, if you're tying it to that, you're eventually just going to burn out, because you're going to be like, I'm not good enough, because you're holding yourself to an extremely impossible to meet standard, and you're not going to end up getting any of those goals, because you're just going to give up. And if you just don't give up, it doesn't matter how slow your progress is, you're still making progress. Whereas if you give up, you're not making any progress. It's not if you have the right people around you and the right mindset and something you've never doubted yourself you can do. Exactly. You have to give NEET exams to even get a good CLG. And yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Like, we kind of base our identity on exams, because that's like, oh yeah, dental medicine. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's certain things that obviously you require, formal instruction. I'm not talking about abandoning formal instruction. There are very specific requirements for certain things and certifications. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about allowing yourself to stop, because if you waited for inspiration to study for a dental exam, you would never do it, because you're like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'll never be a real dentist. No, you go to school and you practice being a dentist or an oral hygienist. Like, they have like a safe environment to learn. And I think most people have not as much of an issue. I mean, maybe they do, but I think when it comes to art, any kind of art, I think we get this huge shift in how we treat it than if we treated it like a trade. I think when people treat something like dentistry or like plumbing, nobody thinks of it as like, oh, I need to become a great plumber, a plumber that everybody recognizes. I need to be authentic. Like, no, you just do plumbing. And I know it attacks your identity, because you're like, oh, but art isn't something that you should just treat like a trade skill. It needs to be coming from your heart. It needs to be authentic. But ironically, by refusing to take action, you're gonna end up without the skill required to even access that part of yourself. Like, you need to train your skill to a certain level to even unlock that potential. Otherwise, you're just making stick figures, or you're just making random marks on the page like I am. Like, this isn't something that, like, I am not at my full potential. I don't think anybody really is. But you're not going to even remotely access that part of yourself unless you just treat it like a boring practice. Like, it needs to be boring. so that you can unlock, ironically, you can unlock the non-boring stuff. Just like with music, right? So like with music, you have to practice all the boring stuff in order to get the expressive stuff. You have to practice scales. You have to practice, like, long tones if you're like a, wind instrument, like a clarinetist. You have to understand how your instrument works. You have to do fingering exercises. You have to do etudes to like train those things. It's really boring. But you do that long enough and it unlocks your ability to then express yourself in a way that you never would have expressed yourself without those raw technical abilities. So just like that, like with drawing, I need to train a whole bunch of stuff with my hands to get my hands to even have the mechanical ability to express myself. And so a lot of that is just going to be a lot of time on the page. Doing stuff like this, understanding like how lines feel when I draw them in different angles. It's like passive learning, but it's not so passive. It takes a lot of effort, deliberate exercises as well. But I'm not focused so much on, I'm just going at my own pace and I'm taking it really slow. I'm trying to solidify individual concepts before I move on to more advanced things or more formal instructions. And it doesn't mean I'm not going to, it just means I'm a little slower than what maybe a lot of people might be used to. A lot of people, they go to art school and they learn all these things about like perspective grids and the golden ratio, or like all those kind of things. 3-part perspective, all those kind of things that you learn in like art school. I have taken some art classes, but I've always burnt out because it felt like I was trying to advance too quickly. Because, you go into an art program, it's pretty accelerated, which is actually pretty good at some point. At some point, you need somebody to kind of like keep pace for you. Because you need to kind of push yourself beyond, because if you waited for yourself to be ready, sometimes that stagnates you. I am a little slower than a lot of people, but I also learn deeper than a lot of people. But that means that I do fall behind in more formal instruction, especially group instruction. I kind of need to go at my own pace for a while. There will be a time where I think I want to take formal art classes. But I'm gonna wait it out. I'm gonna see what I can do on my own so I can get the kind of competence and confidence to not burn out. Because if I started with an art class, I might feel pressure because of grades, because of timelines, like deadlines, right? I might feel pressured and then I might not meet those deadlines and it's gonna hurt my identity. I am somebody who failed a class. Like that is a huge insult to your identity. Because it's not really who you are. It has nothing to do with your ability. It's just at that moment you weren't able to meet those standards. And it doesn't mean you're never going to meet the standards. It means at that exact moment you didn't meet those standards. And I have a hard time with deadlines and formal schooling starts to, I can do it, but it wears down on me over time and I end up dropping out. I've done this several times. This isn't like, I'm not imagining things. This is a real thing that happens in my life. And I instead of burning out, I want to find how to not burn out. And I'm getting better at this. I have been training this ability to just keep going for years now. Like with my surgeries I talked about. Hey Kevin. The engineer aspirant to get a good CLG and free tuition and NEET is for people who want to become doctor. Then comes MBBS. It is after you pass is in NEET. That's like fascinating. I wish the best of luck to all of you for doing that. That is awesome. Becoming a doctor. That is amazing. That is a hard work. But just like with art or anything that you do, you have to show up And so it's like a lot of people have a lot of don't. I mean, becoming something like a doctor, is extremely difficult. It's not guaranteed. You have to do a lot of work. You have to push above and beyond what you're currently capable of. And the people who, get into a residency, like, they have pushed themselves to the point of being qualified for that. And they weren't qualified until they were ready. And that's like an extremely challenging thing to do. But if you treated it the same way that people treated art, I'm not ready because I'm not good enough. Like, no, you become good enough by showing up and practicing. Like doctors will work with, doctors work with like, surgical robots, like surgeons. They'll work with, I believe they like work with, nowadays they work with like VR or augmented reality, with like, digital tools that replicate the conditions the best we can with technology to perform that surgery in a safe way. And they do that for like hundreds or thousands of hours. But just like a flight, somebody learning how to fly a plane, like to be a pilot, for any capacity, whether it's a commercial pilot or whether it's for a military vessel or anything like that, you have to put in like hundreds or thousands of hours in the flight simulator. You're practicing. You're not just going out there and flying. Now the difference is with art, you're not gonna die by getting out a sheet of paper and putting pencil on the paper. You have even more freedom than somebody like a pilot would have, or a surgeon. So there is literally no risk to getting out the page and just seeing what happens. Just do it. And yeah, you could worry about bad habits, but I honestly think that's a lie people tell themselves. They're like, oh, I don't want to practice wrong because I'll get bad habits. I think it's much easier to fix bad habits than it is to form any kind of habit at all. Because if you don't do anything, if you don't practice, if you don't just put pencil to paper, you're not going to have any habits to adjust. But you're like, oh, but I don't want to build bad habits, so I'm going to wait until I can afford a teacher. I'm going to wait until I go to college. I'm going to wait until I can get like a coach. Like, if you wait, you're going to be waiting forever. What if you're waiting for something? You're basically making yourself an excuse. You're like, oh, well, I'm not working on art right now because I can't afford a coach. So I may as well not even do it at all because I don't want to build bad habits. It's protecting your ego. It's an identity thing. It's so much easier to protect your identity if you're not challenging it. But in order to improve, you have to challenge your identity. You have to get over yourself. And you start to notice things. And ironically, you become the kind of person who doesn't need to be fragile. You become the person who actually is skilled. And because you actually put in the effort, and you might have bad habits, but then you can fix those with like a few, that's when you can get a coach. Right? Because now you have very isolated problems that you can actually work on. Like, oh, hey, here's a problem that you've learned from your self-study. I'm a formal coach with an objective vision of like, I can see your work with a more objective eye, and I can help you correct those habits. And then it's like, well, now you're working with now you're cooking with Crisco, okay? Because now you have a very deliberate, you have something very deliberate to actually work with. You have a coach that can actually target something, rather than, oh, let's start with the fundamentals, and you haven't been working on art for 30 years, and so I guess we just have to start with basic instruction that you could have learned on your own. And so now you're paying somebody to basically be ChatGPT. Obviously better, but now you're paying somebody to do something that you could have learned on your own, rather than paying somebody to correct things that, just make some course corrections. Like, hey, I learned on my own. I don't have to relearn everything else. I just have to kind of course correct these few isolated things. And then that'll probably open up all the rest of your ability as well, because now you're not limited by that one blind spot. So it's like, I feel like this myth of bad habits, oh, it's harder to unlearn bad habits than it is to, no, it's harder to replace years of effort. Like if you put in years of effort with no coach, you're gonna learn things like without even trying. But if you try to wait, until oh, I need a coach, I need to afford it, so I'm going to save up for 5 years until I even start putting pencil to paper. Well, now you should have started 5 years ago. Like, you could have just started, like, maybe I'll read watch some YouTube videos on how to draw. Even though it's not as good as getting a personalized coach, you're doing something. And, you're going to develop natural abilities just through the practice of doing it. And I think like a lot of people have this fear that they'll have permanent bad habits if they don't have like this professional level, $100 for like 30 minutes of instruction coach. They're like, oh, well, I can't afford it, so I guess I won't do it. It's like, no, you can afford it. You got a pencil, you got printer paper. You got everything you need. You got a pencil sharpener to sharpen those pencils. You got like this 25-cent pencil and like this like 5-cent piece of paper. Like, come on, you don't need to pay $100 an hour coach or $200 an hour coach to learn the basics. Obviously, if you have the kind of money to do that, you're going to get significant exponential growth over time. But like, that's not the point I'm trying to make. Obviously, objectively, it's always better to have a qualified professional coach. Even if you're learning things that you could learn on your own, you're going to have somebody who's going to help you learn better. But nothing is going to replace the work. Like, you're still going to have to do the work. The coach is not going to do it for you. They're going to kind of steer you in the right direction. And that's good to have, but not everybody can afford that. And unfortunately, that's the case. And so instead, maybe if I work on stuff and then while I'm saving up for that coach, I can work on things on my own. And then when I have the coach is going to have a much better foundation to work with than this is a brand new artist. They're going to say, oh, this is an artist who is self-studied, and I need to kind of help this artist relearn things. And now they have a course of, now they have a plan of action. Now they have like a targeted instruction, which is going to be way more meaningful than if they start. I mean, obviously, it's always going to be more meaningful if they had started from scratch with the coach. But like I said, reality has different plans. It costs a lot of money to hire a coach. Not everybody has that kind of money. And so if you're going to wait for that, you may as well like be waiting forever. Because money doesn't grow on trees. Okay. Like, and I feel like my whole life, the reason that I felt so behind, and that I am behind in a lot of the skills that I wanted to learn, it's because I had people who were actively preventing me from making progress. They were convincing me, or trying to convince me, and it worked, that I shouldn't pursue these things because I don't have a coach, because I can't afford a coach, because only rich people can do that. Only rich people can be musicians. Only rich people can be artists. Only rich people can play basketball professionally because they have the money to afford it. Regular people need to get a job. Regular people, and it's like, well, I basically define myself as somebody who is incapable of doing things. And interestingly enough, what they wanted from me was not something I could have ever achieved, because I have a developmental disorder. I'm disabled. And so I can't really force myself to just quote unquote get a job, whatever that means. Like, yeah, I could potentially just get I have a job now. I'm a model. I started as a model for the college. for the art department. And it's not like, making me a living. I have SSI because I'm disabled. But it's a movement towards a life that I can actually sustain, rather than a life that I'm trying to force myself to live based on what other people want me to be rather than who I am. I'm working with reality. I'm a disabled person. I have to live life differently than what people want me to live. I tried to live under their restrictive version of what I should be, and I just ended up flailing around. I ended up failing at everything I did because I was holding myself up to a standard I could not possibly uphold, because I have a disability. It's like asking a blind person to be able to see, or asking a person in a wheelchair to be able to walk. Like, you're basically expecting me to do something I can't do, and then I beat myself up over it. And I think, like, since I started standing up for myself 6 years ago, I was able to get my surgery. I was able to connect to all these resources that they're going to find me housing. They're helping me navigate employment. I have people who are helping me. I didn't have that before. Now I have the coaching I needed, but it's not the coaching they wanted me to have. They wanted me to just go get a job just like everybody else does. Why you think that you're above working a job? It's like, no, these people were attaching meaning to things that weren't true. I just simply couldn't do what they wanted me to do. And they were trying to force me to be somebody I'm not. And it wasn't because I was stubborn. It wasn't because I just wanted to get stoned and party and be like, oh, I'm a musician, I'm gonna play guitar, and it wasn't because I was some rebel trying to oh, I'm an artist, I don't want to work a regular job. It wasn't like that. It was that I literally couldn't. And so I was trying to work with what my abilities are rather than what my abilities should be. I started working with reality 6 years ago, and now I'm starting to fly. I'm actually making things happen in my life that had never happened before, which is I trust myself. I trust the process. It is challenging, and I wish it could be easier. I wish I could just get a regular job like everyone else, but I have to be able to sustain it, not just get a job and burn out in 2 weeks, right? Because that's what's going to happen if I just force myself to get a job. I tried going to school, even doing the things that I love doing that come naturally to me. I studied in the music program for 3 years. I was on campus from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day. Yeah, good luck on those exams, Anukat. You gotta wake up at 5 a.m. Oh, get that sleep, buddy. Come on, get that sleep. I believe in you. You're gonna do good. Stop. You gotta have good sleep. You gotta have good nutrition. Treat it like an everyday thing. It shouldn't be this oh, I gotta get this exam. It's no, you gotta treat it as something normal. It's gotta be normal, right? It shouldn't feel like a big exam. It should feel like, oh, I'm waking up today, I'm going to class, and we happen to be doing an exam today, so I'm gonna focus on that. I'm gonna wake up, have my breakfast, have my coffee if you drink coffee. It's a normal routine. But you just happen to have an exam that day because it's part of your lifestyle. You're no longer somebody who's just cramming for an exam. You're somebody who already knows how to do the exam. And that's what you're gonna do as a doctor. Every day you go to work, it's gonna be an exam. And so if you treat it like something you have to cram for, you're not gonna be able to do it. You have to be able to show up to it every day. So it's going to be normal for you. It should be normal. It shouldn't be oh, it's a big exam, I better pass it or my future is failed. No, that's a lot of intensity for no reason. It's a lot of pressure. You're pressuring yourself to become somebody who can't sustain the effort required to do what you're doing. That's not going to lead you to success. And I feel like I started treating myself that way, with kindness, with gentleness. And ironically, you end up outperforming your what you would have done if you just pressured yourself and forced yourself. Because that's what I was doing. I was trying to force myself to be what all the people in my life who were trying to, I don't want to say they were malicious. I think they were trying to steer me in the right direction. I think they wanted me to do well. They didn't want me to be out of, to be homeless or to be in poverty. But that's what ended up happening, because I didn't have the skills required for me to succeed. For me to succeed, I need heavy coaching. I need support, because I have a developmental disability. I have extreme problems stemming from autism, and I know that some people are out there, they constantly have this opinion that like, oh, you're just making excuses. These people don't know what I'm dealing with. They don't live my life. They haven't gone through the struggle after struggle after struggle that I have tried to force myself to be something that the people around me wanted me to be. And then I ended up just failing anyway, which is the thing they wanted me to avoid. So it's like I failed not because I'm a failure. I failed because I didn't have the right tools. It's like if you're trying to dig a hole, but you're trying to use a hammer to dig a hole. Right? So like you're trying to dig a hole with a hammer. Like, yeah, maybe you could do it. You hit the ground hard enough with a hammer, you might be able to displace some of the soil. Or you just get a goddamn shovel. Right? Get a goddamn shovel. Stop trying to dig a hole with a hammer. Which is what basically people were trying to force me to do. I know it sounds ridiculous because people are like, oh, but that's different. That's different. It's not. I have a different kind of brain. I function differently. So I need instruction and coaching that matches that rather than fights against it. And so ever since I started getting the right kind of coaching, progress is slow, but it's progress. Right? Instead of just stalling and feeling like a failure, hating myself, getting yelled at by people and internalizing what they're yelling at me for, feeling like my identity becomes somebody who is incapable. And that's what happened. My identity shifted from I can do this to I can't do this. And so I ended up failing at everything. I completely dropped out of life, basically. I burnt out. I ended up, just smoking weed and drinking in my early 20s and basically just partying and doing nothing because I was like, well, I'm a failure. I can't possibly do what the world wants from me. But that's not true. What's true is I couldn't do it their way. And just because I can't do it their way doesn't mean I can't do it. And so I just needed to find the right people. And now I have an agency that specifically works with people with my specific developmental disorder. They know how to work with me. They've worked with others like me. Some people who are worse off than me in some ways. And so they've already succeeded. They have a model for success that I've never had. People who are advocating for me. People who are finding resources for me, giving me access to things that I never had access to. Just SSI alone, having a monthly income, that's already something I never had, really. I had to have a job, and in order to keep the job, I barely held on to it, and then I ended up burning out and quitting every job I had. I was unable to actually improve as a person because I was putting all my energy into just maintaining that employment. And I know it sounds like such an excuse to most people out there. It sounds like such an excuse. Trust me, it is not what you think it is. I don't need to convince these people otherwise. They're going to think whatever they think. There's going to be people in my YouTube comments who think that I'm just a failure, that think I'm lazy. They can think whatever they want. I already know what works. I know what doesn't work. And I have the things are already working. Things are already changing. And I don't need their approval to succeed. I just need to succeed. And once you stop working hard. Like, I want you to divorce yourself from this idea of working hard, because that you could work hard forever and never get anywhere. Just do what is required to become successful. That's it. That's where your work should be. You might work hard, you might not. On some things you're going to work hard, on some things you're just going to do what's needed. If you want to build a mountain out of a hill, You just start taking one spoonful of dirt every day and you put it on top of that hill. And after enough spoonfuls of dirt, it becomes a goddamn mountain. It doesn't matter if you worked hard or not. It matters that you put the dirt on the hill and it accumulated over time. You lay that one brick. You don't try to build a wall. You lay one brick the best way you fucking can. Every day you lay that one brick. Your entire day is on how do I get the evenness of the cement? Like exactly how do I place it on there? You spend all of your energy on achieving that one goal rather than trying to spend your energy on working hard. Because you can work hard as you want. If you're just like lifting a brick up and down and not actually placing cement on it, it doesn't matter how hard you work. It's not going to stick until you put cement on it. So it's like, you just put the goddamn cement on it. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you work. You just do what is required to become successful, whatever that means. And if your effort needs to be put into finding out what those steps are, then that's what you work on. Once you know what those steps are, you execute those steps. And that's what I've been doing. That's how I got my surgeries to happen. That's how I got these agencies to start looking for housing. That's how I got everything that I have. All the things that are leading me towards a better future, all the things that are leading me towards a better life, are because I just showed up and kept doing what was required of me. It wasn't because I worked hard. And I think a lot of my anxiety is because it feels like I'm doing nothing, but that's because my brain needs to be unwired into attaching my worth to how much effort I'm exerting. It doesn't matter how hard I work. It matters what you do. And I think changing my mindset, it has like a kind of a shell shock to it. Because it's like I'm expecting there to be more effort. And it's like because I have like this idea that if I'm not working hard, if I'm not expending all my effort, if I'm not exhausted every day, then I'm probably not doing enough. And that's incorrect. That is just factually untrue. Because it doesn't, like, as long as you take actions, if let's say like you need to do 5 minutes every day of something in order to, like, oh, if you log in 5 minutes every day into this web portal, it accumulates over time, and then you'll have certification because you spent 5 minutes practicing this thing every day. And you can only do 5 minutes. It's a daily lockout. You can only do 5 minutes a day, and all you have to do is just read this sentence one after another. We're gonna feed it to you. We're doing the work for you, but you can only do 5 minutes a day. And there's practice drills that, you know, part of that 5 minutes, there's like practice drills. You have to answer questions. It's like they do the work for you, but what you do is the easiest execution possible. But you can only do 5 minutes a day, and it takes like 5 years. But at the end of the 5 years, you now have the skill at a very professional level. You can perform surgery. You can, whatever skill that might be. It's a hypothetical situation. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. It's not how hard you work. It's what you do. That's what matters. And it's going to be hard work, but it might not always be. And I think like changing that mindset is so hard for most of us because we're trained that we need to work hard to succeed. But working hard doesn't matter if you're trying to dig a hole with a hammer instead of using a goddamn shovel. Ayahuasca? Or you could just take ayahuasca. work hard in your talents. I mean, it's not about working hard. It's about doing what needs to be done, which might be hard. It might always be hard, but that's like, it's a fundamental shift in how you think about problem solving. It's a fundamental shift. It's not about working hard. It's about doing what is required, which sometimes might require very hard work. It sometimes might require very little work or no work. Some things are literally just gatekept behind external things you have no control over. Okay, so working hard doesn't magically make those things happen. Like, some things are time locked, right? You have to wait till the next day. Working harder isn't going to make time flow faster. Like, you can't magically make the day happen sooner. You have to wait until the 24 hours. It's literally time gated. Like, you can't work harder to make the day happen sooner, right? So I think, like, shifting how we think about things is part of what will actually lead to success. If you look at successful people, and obviously you can't ever replicate what they did because they had a very specific set of circumstances that led them towards being able to achieve those opportunities, but you have to look at, like, how they function. They function on a level that is different from non-successful people. Non-successful people focus on working hard. They focus on doing what they're told. They focus on working hard. They focus on social smoothness. Successful people, they sometimes do those things when needed, but they do what's needed, what's necessary. They wake up at 5 a.m. not because somebody told them to wake up at 5 a.m., but because their body works better at that time. They wake up at 5 a.m. and get their day started. It puts them in the right mindset because they're not working against themselves. They're working with themselves. If waking up at 2 in the afternoon gives you the energy required to actually achieve your goal, then wake up at 2 in the afternoon. Don't wake up at 5 in the morning just because some famous TikToker did it. You know, like, this person didn't do it just because it was arbitrary. They did it because it worked. And if it doesn't work, then don't do it. Obviously, you should try new things if something isn't working, but I feel like you got to look at why they do things, not what they're doing. Because you can see, like, successful people, what they're really doing is they're just over time taking actions that will lead them towards their goal. And sometimes it's like, you know, luck is involved, a lot of the time actually, but that's because they took all the actions that allowed those opportunities to even be possible to achieve in the first place. If you don't practice how to draw every single day for years, developing your own skill, what if out of nowhere there's somehow like this professional coaching opportunity that says, okay, we're to the first person who has this level skill of knowledge, I'm going to give 5 years of professional coaching. But you have to meet this minimum, like, you have to submit artwork to this contest. And so you don't have that skill if you didn't train it yourself. Like, so now you can actually submit work to this contest and you have an actual chance where you wouldn't have had any chance if you didn't try to draw on your own, right? So, like, these are the kind of things where, like, luck only happens to people who allow luck to happen. Luck doesn't happen to just random people. You know, like, there's that, like, with that parable of, like, or whatever, of, like, the squirrel and, like, the squirrel and the weasel or something like that. But basically, there's like a squirrel that, like, works diligently all through the winter or all during the summer, collecting nuts like acorns and walnuts and stuff and stowing them away for the winter, doing all this work. And then, like, this other creature, the rabbit or whatever it is just like, you know what, I'm just gonna be lazy all summer. And then by the time winter comes, he has no food. And so the squirrel spent all of his time actually getting the food stored, put in the work. Like, luck isn't random. Like, yeah, maybe you could say that there was luck, that there happened to be acorns there or whatever, but if you show up every day looking for acorns, you will find them. If you don't even look for them, you're not going to find them. Like, maybe one will fall on your head. Like, obviously things like that can happen, but if all you do is just like play video games every day, and you just drink alcohol or smoke weed, and you're just like going to work every day saying, oh, my life is miserable, I wish it was better, and you're hoping for some magical cure to yourself, you know, you could say, oh, but you know, I wish, you know, oh, these people who succeeded, oh, they got lucky. Like, no, they showed up every single goddamn day, even for 5 minutes a day, sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 5 hours. They showed up every goddamn day, and they did what was required to learn the skills so that when luck presented itself, they were able to take that luck. So it's like there's a difference, like putting your name in the hat. If you don't put your name in the hat, you're not going to have your name drawn. So people who have wishful thinking, they want to just win the lottery. They're like, oh, I wish I was rich. I wish I won the lottery. Maybe I'll buy a lottery ticket or go to the casino because that'll fix all my problems. Like, no, it's not. It might. You might get extremely lucky and like win the lottery. But then what are you going to do after that? You're not going to have any of the skills required to even manage that money. Like, yeah, you could learn those, obviously, but this is the point I'm trying to make. Somebody who earns $1 million has the skills required to earn another $1 million. Somebody who has like $1 million land on them has zero skills in how to actually manage that money or use it, invest in it. Somebody who makes $1 million knows how money works. They might have luck. Like, okay, well, this executive or this venture capitalist that I'm starting a business in, they happen to be walking in this building into that elevator the same time I got into that elevator. Yeah, that's luck. But if you didn't have the skills required, the charisma, the knowledge, the delivery that you've practiced in front of a mirror or in front of other people that said no to you, like you've said it enough times, you've worked through it, you have the ability to actually utilize that luck. Whereas somebody who's just, oh, I'm going to work every day, I'm drinking after work and just watching TV, I'm just doing nothing with my life, I'm not actually putting any effort towards the things that I truly want, and then you expect somebody to just hand everything on your lap. Oh, because people who are successful are just lucky. Like, no, they put in the effort every goddamn day. And then when luck presents itself, they're able to actually use it. That's the difference. Being jealous others got it. Yeah, a lot changed for me after I walked out of my crap corporate job and opened my business. I'm really glad to hear that, Himba. That's really scary. And a lot of people they're justifiably scared. I don't want to say somebody's a loser for not doing what you did. But, I mean, it is really scary. Starting a business rather than relying on an established business that has a guaranteed or pretty much guaranteed paycheck, to actually start your own business that might not work out, that is terrifying. But you wouldn't find out if it works if you didn't do it. And so by doing it, you're making your own luck. Because if you didn't do it at all, nobody's going to just start a business for you. Like, they might. But it's probably not going to happen. It's probably actually more likely that somebody is going to buy you a lottery ticket and that it wins. So I feel like that's like the fundamental change that successful people have in their mind that's very, like, fundamentally different than people who aren't successful. People who aren't successful, they kind of just accept things the way they are. People who are successful don't accept things the way they are. They say, this needs to change. What needs to change? They start that questioning, right? You question those things. You don't say, I need to work harder. You say, what needs to change? And then that thing might change in, okay, well, I need to wake up at 5 in the morning every day before work to spend 3 hours on my business. And then, like that needs to change. Instead of sleeping in every day, instead of going out drinking every night, I go to bed 3 hours earlier. I wake up 3 hours earlier. I start my business plan at 5 in the morning before I get ready for work. Then you go to work, you do your job. And then instead of going out to drink with your buddies after work, you go home to take care of your needs. You take care of your physical needs. You take care of your body. You drink plenty of water. You rest. And then you get plenty of sleep. You wake up fresh that next morning. Instead of sleeping in or watching TV in the morning, you're putting that effort into your side business. Like these are things that successful people do that unsuccessful people don't do. They do what is missing. Like they change the variables. They find what needs to change and they make small changes. Or they make big changes. But you can't make a big change if you don't make a small change. Even just having the mindset of, I am not going to allow this to stagnate. I am somebody who has this goal. That change in your mind means everything. Because now you're not somebody waiting for something to happen. You're somebody with an intention. You're somebody who says, I am going to start a business. You might not even know what business you're starting, but you are somebody who will start a business. That is an identity shift. You're no longer somebody working a corporate job, just getting through life. You're somebody who says, I am going to be something more. That is a huge change, and it's required. I mean, it's not technically required, but it's basically required in order to actually do all the actions that stem from that. That is the root change. All the actions that stem from that require that mindset. I am somebody who does what's needed to make success happen, or at least possible. So it's like, if you want to start a business, you have to have this idea in your head that you will succeed. You have to know that you have to be living your life as if you've already succeeded. Not like in the avoid like spending creep or lifestyle creep, all that bullshit. That's going to detract from your goals. It's going to detract from your life. Trying to keep up appearances, trying to like look like you're successful, trying to increase your spending for your lifestyle just because you have more money. Like I have a hard time with that, and I'm poor, and so it's like I'm trying to work on that with one of my coaches. I'm trying to work on budgeting properly. I spent way too much money this past month on art supplies. But now I don't have to spend art supplies for probably a couple of years. So it was an investment. I just didn't manage the money too great. But we're going to work on it. I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm not going to feel miserable. I'm not going to hate myself. I'm just going to make changes. And so I think that mindset shift is what's important for people to get over the things that aren't working and start finding the things that do work. And it doesn't mean that you're going to find it. If you just copy and paste what somebody else does, what works for them, it might work for you, but it might not. So you need to find what works for your specific needs. And that might be something different. Like for me, I needed to find an agency that works with developmentally disordered people to coach me into learning the skills I need. That was my step towards success. For someone else, they don't need that because they don't have it. They're not autistic. They don't have a developmental disorder. They already have, a lot of the tools that I don't have. Like here's the fundamental thing that people who have harassed me in my life, people who have lectured me and pressured me to be something different, like family members and such like that, the fundamental misunderstanding that they have is they're operating on an assumption that I have tools that I don't actually have. I don't possess these tools. How am I supposed to actually succeed? If all you have is a hammer, but you're trying to dig a hole and you don't have a shovel, then why are you expecting me to work at the same speed and at the same level as somebody who has a shovel? So I think that's like a fundamental misunderstanding of what I'm working with. And so I stopped taking those people seriously. I'm like, you are expecting me to work with tools I don't have. And it's like I'm trying to build those tools. That's where my work actually pays off. Building the tools. That's what I've been doing. That's where I'm actually getting towards a place in my life where I am going to have the tools necessary to push myself into a level of success I never thought possible. And I'm going to keep doing that. And all these other people, they're going to just kind of wonder why their lives aren't going anywhere. They're like, oh, I did all the right things, but I never pushed myself. I never did what was required to achieve my dreams because I thought those were pipe dreams. I thought they were impossible. I'm like, no, they weren't impossible. You just chose not to pursue them. I chose to pursue my dreams. I chose to pursue my skills. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to be guaranteed success. What it means is I'm creating the conditions required for it to actually work, rather than just hoping and wishing, right? I'm not just going to wish for things to be better. I'm going to do the steps required to make it better. And if those things might look delusional to some people, well, then those people don't have to be a part of my life. Those people can go live their own life. If they think I'm a failure, then won't they just, ignore me? I'm probably not a failure. I'm probably going to end up succeeding, and then their face is going to be red because they thought I was going to fail. Instead of actually supporting me and encouraging me and giving me more resources to be able to succeed, which is obviously not something that I would have ever expected. But instead of doing that, they tortured me. And they don't think it was torture, but it was. Because I have a developmental disorder. And I got tired of it. I got tired of listening to people who have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea what I'm dealing with. They have no idea what skills I need that I'm missing. And yet they want me to achieve success the same way they did, when they had tools that I don't have. They have resources I don't have. They have opportunities I didn't have. They had mentorship I didn't have. And they want me to be the same as them? That's pretty abusive, and I got tired of it. I saw it for what it is. It is a fundamental disrespect for me and my needs. Instead of trying to meet me where I'm at, they're trying to force me to be someone I'm not. Something I can never be. I can't stop being autistic. Is this AI? No. Honestly, I get a bit lucky. If I wouldn't have left my corporate job, I would have never had that luck present itself. Exactly. That's how it goes. Like, yeah, it's risky. But I mean, what's the worst case scenario? You'll have to find a new corporate job? Like, that's the worst case scenario. Actually, I mean, it could get worse. Like, but somebody's going to hire you. If you got that first job, it means you can get another job, right? You had the skills required to get that first corporate job. You could have got a second corporate job if your business didn't work out right away. But also, I think just because you change your plans doesn't mean you give up on your plans. If your business didn't work out for you and you had to go get a corporate job again, it just means you have to try again. And if you are the kind of person that succeeded at creating a business, you're the kind of person that would have adjusted, and you would have learned from your first attempt, and you would have done it differently. And maybe some things are just pure luck. And maybe if you do it enough times, you will get there. But you're also not just getting luck. You're learning skills every time you try to start that business. You're learning what works. You're learning what doesn't work. You're learning passive skills. Like you are learning things just by doing it. And if you didn't do that, if you just stayed at your corporate job and you relied on, I'm going to wait until an opportunity presents itself. Well, somebody who is actually actively seeking those opportunities is going to get it before you, because they're waking up every day and their mind is already, I am a business owner. I am an entrepreneur. It is a part of their identity. They are miles ahead of you, light years ahead of you. Because if you're like, I work in a corporate job, but I wish I had a business. I wish I started a business, but something's stopping me. and I don't know what it is, and I'm not even going to try to, like, if you don't know what's stopping you, your goal is to figure that out. Your goal is to find what is holding me back. That's 100% of your effort. That's where working hard pays off. You take things one sequence at a time. If you're not going to start at, I'm going to start a business. You're going to start with, I am an entrepreneur. I am a business owner. Okay, what is holding me back? You go backwards from that. You know what you're going to become. You are going to become a successful entrepreneur. And you go all the way back from the finish line. You go all the way back to where you are right now. And you say, what needs to change to make that goal more likely? And you do that one little thing at a time. That little thing might be a big thing. That little thing might be, okay, I need to shift my mindset. I need to think that I am going to get that goal. I have to believe it. And it might not be possible right now, today. But if I have that in my mind, all my decisions stem from that belief that I will succeed as an entrepreneur. And so every single day, all of your decisions focus around that center of gravity, that you are somebody who will do whatever it takes to reach that goal. And so all your decisions, it's going to be like little intricate decisions. But if you think of like everything as an intricate decision without that core belief that you are somebody who will succeed as an entrepreneur, you're going to get lost in the weeds. You're going to be like, okay, well, I need to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I need to drink green tea every day. I need to drink, vegetable juice. I need to stop eating red meat. I need to take these supplements. I need to do this. I need to watch this YouTube video. You're going to get lost. You're going to get completely lost because you're forgetting that all those things are just intricate little teeny variations. Those things are not what leads you to success. They are just actions that, with the right actions over time, will compound into creating the situation that actually allows success. But those things actually don't particularly matter. Now, if drinking green tea helps put you in a mindset where you are now stronger because you're healthier, because now you have a focus in your mind, and then you take out a pad of paper and you start, working on what you need to do. Like, okay, well, if I want to start a business, let me look at the calendar. Oh, there's a venture capitalist opportunity coming up where I'm going to be able to go to a public presentation. Like, maybe I'm going to learn something there, and you might not. It might be a waste of time, but you're actually going to the place where entrepreneurs go. You're like, maybe that's probably a scam, but the old me, the one who thought that everything was luck, wouldn't have gone to this. But the new me, the me that says I am an entrepreneur, I will succeed, that person, even if that is a guaranteed failure of a lost cause, that person still goes to that meeting. That person meets the other entrepreneurs. That person goes to the convention. And you might not get anything out of it. It might be a complete waste of time. But it doesn't matter because you are the person that said, hey, if I want to be an entrepreneur, these are other entrepreneurs. I should do what they do. I should find out what environment they're in. I should find out what they talk about, what they think about. Those things are really what you're learning. You might not get, and you might actually get lucky. Somebody might actually give you their business card and want to talk later and say, hey, I like your business idea. Let's actually meet for lunch at this time. Let's put it in the calendar. We're going to meet for lunch and we're going to talk about this and see what we can do. That won't happen if you didn't go to that goddamn convention. It's probably not going to happen, but what will happen is you will be observing. You're going to a place where other entrepreneurs go. You're listening to what they talk about. You're looking at how they dress. You're looking at how they carry themselves. You're listening to like what they do and what works and what doesn't work. You're gathering information. Whereas if you were just like, oh, I work at a corporate job, I just need to make ends meet, I want to start a business, but I don't really know if that's going to work out. Well, you're probably like, oh, well, that convention costs $250 to go per day. Maybe I could spend that on a new PlayStation or something. Like, do you understand? Like, the way of thinking is fundamentally different for successful people. Successful people say, this is where I need to be. I need to be where the successful people are. I need to be doing what they do. I don't know why they do what they do, but I need to do what they do so I can actually start to pick up on what they do. That is what a successful person does. What are you drawing? I have no goddamn idea. I'm just drawing random things. We started out with common sense, bruh. Like literally the text. You can kind of see it still, but it's starting to kind of fade out into the drawing. It said common sense, bruh. Bruh. The one we did last time said 6-7. And we're just kind of discovering what happens as we kind of follow the gravity of the picture. Like, of the marks that I'm making. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Nico. You get a sense yeah, I mean, we don't need to get into it. I have a lot of personal history that is pretty traumatizing. But I am not going to define myself on my childhood. I'm going to define myself on who I am today, what led me here, what led me to success, and what held me back. And what got me to success was fundamentally changing my identity into, I am somebody who does what is required to reach this goal. I don't know exactly what the steps are. I don't know what those things are, but I already know that I am somebody who takes those steps. And it might be difficult, it might be easy, but that's not what determines my actions. What determines my actions is this something that is more or less likely to lead me to this goal? And so it's like, I got my transition related surgeries. I had male to female facial surgery reconstruction, and I had vaginoplasty. So those things didn't just happen. 6 years ago, I went to my doctor and I changed something. I turned a key in my head. I said, I don't know how. I don't know what it will take. I don't know how long it will take, but we are going to move towards these surgeries. We will do whatever it takes. I will do whatever it takes. I will not stop until this surgery happens. And just day by day by day, I started talking to the doctors. I started taking hormones. I started moving forward in the direction that would lead me towards those surgeries. And I made them happen. And for a little bit at the end there, it actually wasn't guaranteed. I have diabetes, and my surgeon didn't want to operate on me unless I lowered my A1C below 6.9 or below 7. It was at 7.2. Now, A1C, if you don't know, is an average of 3 months of your blood glucose levels. It usually, you're only able to lower it about like 0.1 points at best per month, or maybe even per 3 months. I lowered it by 0.5 points in a single month, 4 weeks, 30 days. I worked insanely hard at the most crucial moment. And my surgeon said, hell yeah, we're doing the surgery. And I recovered better because of it too. That's why he required it. He required it because there was going to be less chance of complications if I was healthier. And I got healthy. Now I've kind of burned out since then, but it's only been like 2 years since the surgery. I feel like I need to kind of allow it to have the weight that it truly deserves. Hope you're doing good. Yeah, Stuart. But here's the difference is nothing will ever take that surgery away from me now. I did the hard work. I did what was required at the most crucial moment, and it happened. And it worked out exceptionally well. There were no complications. Like, we avoided all the things that he was trying to avoid. it's not bad, but it's just like, it's not bad. Diabetes isn't bad, but it was preventing me from that very specific goal of having the surgery happen. The doctor did not want to operate on me until my A1C was at a level he wanted it to be. And that wasn't guaranteed. I had to wake up every day, eat an insanely restrictive diet. I wasn't starving myself, I was eating plenty, but I couldn't eat certain things. I was only eating a very deliberate, constructed, like extremely min-maxed diet that was deliberately designed with the help of Perplexity AI, with heavy research into A1C and diabetes and meal planning, nutrition, and exercise. And like getting plenty of sleep was also part of it. I min-maxed to the extreme. Okay, I made it sweaty. This was my 100% entire identity, was making sure that I lowered that A1C soon enough to get back on the schedule for surgery. That was my only goal. I had no other purpose for living. I was a single track mind. I was absolutely insane, but I achieved insane results. So like I got what I worked for. That's where hard work pays off. When you know that your hard work is deliberately achieving something that is a very specific goal, that is where hard work pays off. And obviously, you know, everything was kind of like slower paced until then, and that was just the final moment. So it's like waiting until the opportunity is right to do the right kind of hard work sometimes is really all you really need to be on the lookout for. Putting all this hard work in, obviously it's good, but if I can't sustain it, then it's not really going to be good. I'm going to burn out. I'm going to start eating pizza and like potato chips and stuff. Like, that's not good. I needed the surgery to happen, and so I stopped eating all forms of extra carbohydrates. The only carbohydrates I was eating was like oatmeal, fresh like bananas, and like oranges, like apples, bananas, oranges for sugar, for low sugar spikes. And I was eating carrots and celery for snacks. I even got rid of popcorn, which is like, you know, it was like, you know, not like microwave popcorn. I was only eating regular, like, you know, like air popped popcorn, like the really low glycemic index, but it still has carbs that was affecting my blood sugars. And so I cut out popcorn, even though I enjoyed popcorn, and I switched it with carrots and celery. I started eating like, you know, a very deliberate diet. We could get into it, but I don't really know if I want to rehash it right now. But what I'm trying to say is that I already going into this, I had already in my mind had been living with the understanding that the surgery was going to happen. I didn't wish for it, I worked for it. I spent years doing little teeny tiny daily actions towards that goal, and eventually it just happened. It was not guaranteed, it wasn't luck. There was luck involved. Timing is luck. There were external resources that I couldn't control. My original surgeon left the practice months before the surgery was going to happen. And the clinic, luckily, thankfully, had a qualified surgeon to replace him, to have the same surgery date. But then my diabetes got in the way. And so it's like, it wasn't even about, you know, then it was personal, right? Then it wasn't because of some external factor. It was nobody's fault but mine at that point. And so I was like, I need to fucking grow up and take care of this. And I did. And I fucking kicked ass. And I made it happen. And I'm so glad I did. It's so much better. Holy fuck. You have no idea how much better things are now for me. Sometimes people in the comments, they have these preconceived notions about what it means to be trans, or that I'm somehow like miserable or deformed. I am so much better than you could possibly imagine. You have no idea how bad things were. No amount of therapy would have solved this. It would have just got worse and worse and worse. You would not even, I would probably not even exist, to be fair, to be completely blunt. I would probably not even be alive right now. And I don't want to talk about that too much, but this is why I trust myself now. That if I want to get better at something, it doesn't matter if I'm perfect. It matters that I show up and I do what's required. This drawing may not be very good, but it didn't exist until I picked up the pencil and started drawing. It's one step along the way towards becoming a better artist. Yeah, and somebody who's pretty weak-minded and short, thinks in short-term, short-sighted bursts would see what I'm doing right now and say, oh, she's delusional. She's never going to become an artist. She sucks. And it's like, it's because I have a different mindset. I'm not thinking about who I am today. I am thinking about who I can be today to become who I want to be. It's a fundamental shift in thinking, and it's really hard for a lot of people to do. Some people will never do it, but they'll also never achieve their goals. Not deliberately. Like, they might get their goals on accident, but, you know, I wish them the best of luck, but I don't wish any bad things to happen. Like, I don't think they deserve to be a failure, but you kind of like set your own fate for yourself if you just have these limiting beliefs about yourself. You think you should give up just because you're not already good at something. Well, then how are you going to ever get good if you don't show up? The Gooner short? Yeah, Joe. Yeah, always be gooning. Always be gooning. Always be gooning. Gooning. Yeah, and you know, so now, like, I'm showing up to my stream to do stuff like this. I'm talking about stuff on stream. Some of the things I say or do end up as YouTube shorts. They might not be the best content out there on the internet, but they exist. They wouldn't have existed if I didn't click on go live. If I didn't go live, if I didn't say these things, if I hid behind my shame, if I was like, oh, well, I'm not good enough to be a content creator, I suck, I don't get any views, blah blah blah. If I lived like that, I may as well quit now. I'm not living in who I am today. I'm living as if I've already achieved the success I'm aiming for. Because what does the successful Rebecca think? I may not know exactly what she thinks because I'm not her yet, but what does she align herself with? What does she do? What are the kind of things, like, I'm trying to think like who that version of me is going to think. I'm trying to do what that version of me would do. I may not execute it very well, but I'm trying to think in a way where the things that I do align more with what my belief of that future version of me is gonna do. Like, if I wanted to be a successful, like, professional, like, extremely expert level artist, well, what does an expert level artist do? She puts pencil to the paper. That's like a good place to start, right? Because an artist doesn't become an artist by not drawing. They become an artist by drawing. Like, But it's so hard for people to make that mental shift. It's actually probably the first step. It doesn't mean that it's a really important step. Some people get to it easier than others. It took me like 30 years of living life to finally get to that point where I said, you know what? I'm not going to just cry about not having things that I need. I'm going to do something about it. It took I was 31 years old when I said I needed these surgeries. I need to start working with therapists. I need to get myself out of this trailer park. I need to do something. And I stopped crying about it. I stopped being delusional. I started working with people to make it happen. And it's starting to happen. I'm starting to actually, like, I got my surgeries. That's already a big deal. And now I'm starting to, I have agencies now that are finding housing opportunities for me. Even when I'm not even doing anything. They're doing it behind closed doors. Like, they're doing it in the background. Even while I'm, like, not while I'm sleeping, because they're like, you know, they only work during the day. But they're doing it right, well, maybe not now because today is Sunday. But they do it during the time that I'm doing other things. Either and there's nothing I can really do to speed that up. And so it's like, I'm trying to learn how to just, okay, I need to live my life as if I've already gotten new housing. As, you know, because what am I going to do once I get into new housing? Like, you know, once you, like, if you magically had $1 million, it doesn't mean you stop being alive. You still have problems to solve. So it's like, if your goal is to become a millionaire and you start taking actions that, you know, hey, things are starting to look like it's going to happen. Well, you better start thinking about how you're going to live your life once you become that person. What is a millionaire going to do every day? Like, are you going to just, you know, be content with making $1 million and then just stopping? Or are you going to try to, you know, optimize and become better and start things that actually matter to you? You know, maybe you made $1 million doing something that doesn't 100% align with who you are. Maybe you want to pursue a hobby. Maybe you want to make that, like, you know, something that's part of who you are. Like, maybe you want to go to, like, a different country, or there's all these things that you're going to be doing besides just, you know, you're going to reach the goal and you're going to realize that you became somebody different and now you have new goals. So it's like, you're just going to keep finding new goals. You may as well start from the beginning, understanding that the goal you're achieving will eventually be solved. It might be hard. And sometimes it might never actually be, you know, happen. But you can't operate that way. You have to operate knowing that you will succeed if you do the right things. And some of it might be based on luck, but some of it, a lot of it actually, is based on deliberate actions. But you wouldn't take those actions if you didn't have the confidence to even stand up and do it. And you have to trust that there is a process and that it will work. It's worked for people in the past. And people say, oh, but that's survivorship bias. Well, would you rather listen to survivors, people who've succeeded, or would you rather listen to people who failed and have no idea what they're talking about? There's a scale here. Even though it's not guaranteed, even though there's a lot of luck, even though there's conditions that maybe you don't meet, that those people did, I would still rather learn from them than learn from some random dude off the street who goes out to the bar every day drinking after work and says, oh, you may as well not even try, who has never even remotely attempted to improve their life in the ways that align with their values. They just complain. They're at the bar, they're drinking, they're complaining about their corporate job, but they don't do anything about it. They just drink it away. Why would I listen to that person? That person has literally no idea what to do in order to become successful. I'm going to listen to the people who have done it. I'm going to listen to the people who have succeeded. Even if, yeah, a lot of those things I might not be able to replicate, that's not even on my radar. I'm doing it because you observe people who have succeeded because you're going to learn something from them. That thing might be big, it might be small. It might be the most important thing you've ever learned. And it might be something that's not very obvious what it is. It might be something like, oh, this person thinks a different way. And it might even be completely unrelated to the actual thing you're trying to learn. But because you change that understanding of what it takes to even to operate at the level that these professional level successful people do, you think the way they do. You see things the way they do. They see opportunities where most people see wastes of time. They look at life differently. And you start noticing these things when you listen to what they have to say. And you look at what they do. You don't just look at what they say, you look at what they do. And you notice that they operate on a fundamentally different level. They might even do the same things that unsuccessful people do, but they operate at a fundamentally different level with a different, they have a different outcome in mind. They're trying to learn things from it that other people aren't. They're not focused on the outcome, they're focused on the process. There's all these sorts of things that you can learn from somebody who's successful and or a professional at something. I'd rather listen to those people. I'm not going to listen to Joe Schmo off the street who drinks every day after work, who is doing nothing to improve his situation, who just wants to complain about rich people, who goes on Reddit and complains about millionaire streamers, who complains about YouTubers, and who does nothing at all to even improve his life remotely. Why would I listen to that person? You're saying that person knows better than the successful professional person? Expert? Like, I'm not going to listen to that person. I'm going to listen to the successful person. I'm sorry, but like, that's just how it is. Oh, survivorship bias, survivorship bias. That's bullshit. It's a bunch of cockamamie. Okay. Mike who cheese stain heat. What? Can you draw your favorite Pokemon? Probably not. I can barely even draw whatever the hell this is. See, it's like, oh, hey, Dubcon, you're trans too? Nice. We got some trans people in the chat. Let's go. It led me to more content and things I like. Well, that's good. Yeah, this is why I do YouTube. This is why I stream. This is why I make content. You never fully know, like, what the impact of your work will be. And it might not always be successful, but I'm not thinking in the short term. I am somebody who shows up to make content. Period. That's the same operating principle that a professional multi-million-dollar a month, like that's the same exact principle that a successful person operates on. They do everything in their day that aligns with a plan that involves showing up, making content, publishing that content, and looking at the analytics. Those are the 4 fundamental things that a content creator does that don't change whether or not you're a beginner or an expert. So I look at what people do and I focus on the process, and it doesn't matter that I suck at something. It doesn't matter that I'm not good at drawing. I'm going to show up to draw because that's what a professional artist would do. That's the same exact activity. That will never change. In order to draw, you have to draw. Like, and having that level of confidence that's not contingent on outcomes, because you're not going to have outcomes that you want. Probably not for a very long time. Especially as like a YouTuber, for example. You might never get to like 100K subscribers, right? But what does somebody who gets 100K subscribers do? They upload they write content, they create content, they upload content, and they adjust course as time goes on based on their analytics. Or they ignore analytics and they keep doing their own thing, and that ends up working. It doesn't matter what they're like, it matters about the core engine that they're driving on. Their engine is going to be the same engine whether or not you're an expert or a beginner. And so I'm going to try to find a way to make that engine my own. And so I'm going to do what's required. And I have a vision for myself that might not align to all the people in my comments. There are people in my comments section who are going to say I'm delusional, who are going to say because they're thinking differently than I am. They're looking at the short-term outcomes. They're looking at what they see. They don't see all the things I see. They don't see the fundamental shift in thinking that I have. If you look at things through that lens, you start to see me as highly successful. But these people choose not to see it. And so I choose not to look at their comments. Well, I guess I'm going to look at them, but I choose not to take their comments seriously. They don't have an emotional weight on me. You're 31 trans MTF from UK. Nice. Yeah, basically just put your foot down and never stop demanding what care you know you need. That's how you get the surgeries to happen. Do whatever you need to get access to that health care. Talk to the right doctors. Keep doing what they say. Do what's necessary. Work with the doctors. Stop giving up. The only way you're going to get this health care is if you start putting your foot down that this is who you are, and you can't, you need to operate on a level where you are never going to take no for an answer. And it's going to be hard. It took me 5 years to get my surgery. And I'm not saying it's going to take 5 years for you. It might not. It might take less. It might take longer. I don't want to discourage you, because I wasn't operating on a clear timeline. I was operating on, I am going to make this surgery happen. That much I knew for a fact in my head. I am going to do what is required to make this happen. There is nothing that will stop me. I will keep fighting. I will keep trying to find the doctor. And I made it happen. I fucking made it happen. So don't give up. Ever. That's like the biggest advice I have to any trans woman out there trying to get these surgeries. And honestly, any trans man trying to get their things. Or basically anybody trying to get anything. This doesn't just stay in the isolation of transness. This is something that you can apply to anything in your life. Put your goddamn foot down, make a stand, and don't let anybody push you around. Don't let people steer you away, because they have no idea what they're talking about. They're not living your life. They're not inside of you. They don't understand what your process is. They don't know what your goals are. They're looking at things through their own lens. Ignore the fuck out of them, because they have no idea what they're talking about. Now, if you find people who are going to help you along your way, those are the people you need to listen to. People who are going to support you, people who are going to find you the resources you need, people who are going to open doors for you. Those are the people who deserve your attention, because every time you look at a negative comment on YouTube or something, or some loser on Reddit telling you how you should be, well, now you're taking that energy away from the people who deserve it. The people who are going to be there for you, people who are going to fight for you, people who are going to open doors for you. They matter. And if you're putting your energy into those other people, the people who want to tear you down, people who want you to fail, people who are trying to convince you that their way is right and your way is wrong, those people don't deserve any fucking iota of your energy. You could put that energy into the people who are going to make you succeed. That's what I've learned about transitioning. And if you do that, it might be hard, it might be long, giggity, but you will find what you need. And I guess that's something that's really strong. It took transitioning, going through the hard work of it, going through 5 years of uncertainty, and then these past 2 years of, recovery. Psychological recovery is a very big one. I don't want to discourage anybody. I don't want to influence anybody, really. No, honestly, if you need this, nothing I say will change it. Nothing anybody says or does will change it. But basically, there is a psychological toll that it takes on you. Just advocating for yourself for that long alone has a psychological impact that'll probably stay with you forever. But it's not like it's a bad thing. It's just, it's painful. But just because it's painful doesn't mean it's bad. It does make you stronger than a lot of people that are just walking around the streets. There are people who have no idea what you've been through. You don't have the life lessons that you've learned through blood and sweat and tears. And they're not going to know. They're not going to respect it. A lot of the times, they're not even going to acknowledge it. They might not even see it. But you have to operate on a level where you know that you trust yourself, because you already have been through the hard work, and not everybody's going to recognize it. Not everyone's going to see it. But you don't need them to derail you. You already know that you're going to succeed. You already know that you are stronger than what they think you are. They have no idea. How would they? They haven't been through what you've been through. They don't understand what you're up against. How can they possibly know? And instead, I think putting your energy into people who actually, they may not understand what you're going through, but they're going to open doors for you. They're going to help you at least. They're going to be there for you. They're going to care about you as a human being. Those people matter so much more than those negative fuckers who are going to try to derail you, who are going to see you as a terrible person, who are going to call you delusional, who are going to try to convince you that you're a loser or a failure or mentally ill or whatever they're going to do. That's their own bullshit. And I know it's like such a, kind of cliche piece of advice, but haters gonna hate. And the reason they do is something that you should not be putting your energy into figuring out. It's their own bullshit. It's their own psychological trauma. It's their own lack of effort towards improving their life. And they're reflecting it back to you instead of looking at it themselves. And once you understand that that's how those people are operating on, it's GG. Like, yeah, it does impact you, but at the same time, it's like, I fundamentally understand that this has nothing to do with me when someone's like that. It's 100% to do with their own insecurities, their own lack of progress, that they look at themselves and they see a failure, and so they want everybody else to be the same way they are. They're losers. You should not give them energy. Give your doctors energy. Give people who are going to open doors for you. Give your mentors the energy. The people who are going to lift you up. People who are going to help you get what you need. Those are the people who matter. That's what I've learned. For better or for worse, whatever it's worth. I think it's worth a lot. I think it's worth everything, actually. I went through something that most people will never go through, and it's taught me a lot about how to succeed, that if I don't squander it, I could become more successful than I could have ever imagined. Even when I saw myself as successful, like right now. I'm going to achieve things that I never thought was possible. And I believe this at a fundamental level, which some people might say is delusional. I say it's a requirement. That's what's going to lead me to success. The thing that people think is delusional, that's going to be the mechanism that allows the conditions possible to actually create the successful things. And then who's going to have the last laugh? Right? They're going to be sitting in the same exact situation they're in, hating themselves, hating their life, hating that they never made anything out of their life. And I'm going to be successful, living my own life, reaching for whatever next goal I set for myself. Finding meaning out of life, making meaningful connections, making meaningful relationships, things that truly matter in this life. And they're just going to be complaining. They're going to find more reasons to convince themselves that I'm actually a loser. They're going to convince themselves that I just got lucky. They're going to do all sorts of things. That's what they do. That's why they're on Reddit. So I don't operate on that way anymore. Actually, I don't think I ever did. Anyway, I have no idea what I just drew, but, are you gonna add color? We could. But I'm actually kind of done for now. I think this is, I try not to focus so much on completion. I try to focus on activity. So when I start drawing, obviously my goal is to finish it, but if I got something out of it just by doing it, then it already succeeded. This did something that not doing something would never have accomplished. I actually put a pencil to paper. I did something. I utilized different techniques. I trained those techniques either passively or deliberately, and it served its purpose. And, now it's, just another thing that I did, and then I move on to the next thing. I put it in the pile. It's stashed away. It served its purpose, and now I'm gonna move on to the next thing, whatever that might be. Anyway, I think this was a pretty good stream. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good conversation. I love reading your guys' input. If you can't listen to people who haven't succeeded, though, you won't learn from them. What I'm saying is that you shouldn't let them discourage you. That's what I'm trying to talk about. You should learn from what people have done that didn't work, but you should also listen to people who have done things that did work. That's what I'm talking about, Easy. Next time, try to draw your favorite Pokemon. Okay. I guess we can draw Bulbasaur. I guess that's one of my favorite Pokemon. I like Bulbasaur a lot. Bulbasaur is very underrated. Like, everyone talks about Pikachu or Charmander. I love Charmander, I love Squirtle, I love Pikachu, but like, Bulbasaur, very underrated personality. Like, he's grounded. He's a grass type. Like, Earth. Yeah. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Listening to a homeless person telling you how to become a millionaire. Exactly. Like, I'm not gonna listen to some homeless person telling me that I need to invest in, you need to invest in this because it's gonna make you a millionaire. Like, I'm gonna listen to what people who are millionaires, what kind of advice they have about investing. I'm not gonna listen to some random dude because he read like an article on Facebook about why you need to invest in Dogecoin. Okay, like, I don't care about that. Anyway, I'm gonna head out. Thanks everyone for joining. All the delusional people in chat, they're gonna be delusional, whatever. You have no idea what I'm talking about. You're already operating on a level that I'm well beyond. You have no idea, like, how much more effort you need to put into your own life before you can even think and comprehend what I'm talking about. Like, you're so far below me. Like, you have no idea. If you think I'm delusional, like, you're so far below me. You have no idea what I'm operating on. I am so far and above where you think I might be. Like, you have no idea. Like, you're thinking way too simply. You're thinking way too short term. You're thinking very surface level. You're not thinking at the deep levels that I'm thinking of. That I already have proven success. That have continued to lead me towards a better life. That I'm operating on a level that you can't possibly comprehend. And that's okay, but those people are going to be ignored. Like, I don't have time for you. I don't have time for these people. I have time for the people who are actually equipped to understand the things I'm saying. Anyway, I just dissed these motherfuckers. It's okay. Oh, do a dab. Ah! Anyway, see you guys. Bye-bye.